Hey, what's going on? So, another arc of My Hero Academia Vigilantes is in the books, and this week we got a proper send-off to the past and move towards an extremely violent future. And look, if you've never read My Hero Academia Vigilantes, we're going to be breaking down chapter 94 of the spin-off, so if you haven't read it or even heard of it, I really suggest you read it or binge my reviews and then come on back. I really suggest you do. It's a spin-off prequel to My Hero Academia, and the new chapter comes out next week, and you know it's going to be kicking off a brand new arc in one way or another that seems to always kind of tie into My Hero Academia. So with that being said, this is your spoiler warning, so make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you don't, you miss out on the premiere, and if you've never been to a Dan Exclaims premiere, it's like the thing to do. Anyway, let's go grab a drink. Alright, welcome to the bar everyone, glad you can come by. Sorry, I know I've been slacking a little bit, I've been a little bit under the weather, but you know, a lot has happened in the past week and you know I'm here and the new chapter of Vigilantes was absolutely ludicrous. I mean, there's so much to break down and talk about, and also there's a special tribute at the end of today's video, so I really hope you all can stick around to hear it. I'll meet you guys by the wall though, let's go break this down. Okay, so Chapter 92. It started off with the end of the underground masquerade. I know a handful of us kind of feel a little bit of blue balls here because we were kind of hoping that the fight was going to pop off between All For One and All Might. I guess it could be a little bit of wishful thinking, but if there was any main takeaway from this entire arc for me, it was that you could clearly see the sheer gap in power between Deku and All Might from this one chapter alone. I mean, from this little wrap-up story that we get right here, it's said that All Might pretty much wrapped this up in seconds. In seconds, he collared over 100 villains, assisted in rebuilding the city, and then soared back to Might Tower, assed the fuck out. It's hilarious. And below him, we see Fat Gum once again, and here comes another Dan I told you so moment, because in the last chapter of My Hero Academia Vigilantes, I joked around and said that Fat Gum getting bodied, that was going to be the reason why he decided to fatten up. So ha! It's almost like they're using this story as a prequel to the entire story, am I right? The chapter takes All Might's exit from the story to move back to All For One and Kurogiri as they try to manage with Hood, who's absolutely destroying the lab that All For One is inside of. And like we honestly expected, All For One put him down with ease, which just kind of tells me that we could have expected All Might to pretty much do the same. Oh, also, I'm gonna go ahead and guess that everybody here reads My Hero Academia as well, so if you go reread chapter 297, you'll notice a little bit of a parallel between these two lines. That's really strong writing and translating, I absolutely love it. The next panel is absolutely brutal though. First, we see what Hood's face actually looks like, and in a chapter full of face reveals, this was the one that had me go, holy crap, because secondly, we see All For One strip whatever little bit of humanity that Hood had left away. And then like a piece of trash, he has Kurogiri open up a warp gate and he tosses his ass back through the portal to send back to Ujiko for further analysis. And during his final monologue, All For One preaches patience and how every step that he's taking is going to bring him towards this benchmark that brings him closer to taking on All Might. But, you know, he would be remiss if this was, you know, a little bit of a defeat because he really wishes he got his hands on that quirk overclock. You see, he knows that overclock enhances mental processes, and as such, that quirk would provide him with the means to overcharge pretty much any quirk in his arsenal. He wouldn't even have to, like, just say overclock, you know, to, like, kind of let everybody know what quirk he's using. It would just kind of just work. A while back, I did a video assuming that one of the many quirks that Shigaraki has is overclock, and that quirk will eventually play a part in My Hero Academia's plot and introduce the Vigilantes. And if I were to sit here and try to pick apart his words, my guess is for when he says that he knows exactly what he's gonna do with the quirk overclock, I tried to guess the most obvious answer that was just sitting right in front of us, you know, number 6. This entire arc was about one of All For One's pawns showing up and wreaking havoc during a spur-of-the-moment attempt by the Demon King to cause a little bit of a ruckus. We'll talk about that a little bit later though, because the chapter then moves on to the underground masquerade for some farewells amongst the vigilante heroes. O'Clock actually tells, you know, his two accomplices that if they stick around, they might actually get some money from the cops when they're mentioned in the report though. With that known, you know, Mirko is immediately, you know, just not really interested in that. She really just wants to become a hero herself. And you know for a fact, Rappa is not going to be about that life at all. And with that, the temporary vigilantes all go their separate ways. But not before we get the face reveal that we thought we never needed, Rappa's. Anyway, the next day, O'Clock arrives on scene, but this time he's in his hero outfit because it's better suited to doing detective work. And man, if Furuhashi wasn't trying to make us feel like he was the world's greatest detective, he failed epically, because somehow they figured out a way to take Batman and the Flash and put them in the same body. Detective work and a crime scene investigator. O'Clock is the man, but pretty much this scene gives us a glimpse into his procedure and how he goes about investigating a crime. His usual MO is to gather enough information, and when he has enough information, he fills in the cops and the heroes. This time it's different. If he doesn't play close to the vest, anything's on the table, because it's all but given that these guys have eyes on official channels, so he's gotta really stay under the radar. So like Tanuma said in the beginning, this was going to be a tale about caution and vigilance. Because in order for O'Clock to even tackle this case, he said he needed audacity, freedom, diversity, and all in all, just imagination. Because All For One just had anything that he wanted on the table. And this scene right here pretty much tells me that in one way or another, O'Clock and All Might had to have worked together. I mean, they just did a straight up homage to the Flash racing Superman in this panel, so I am totally ready to know that All Might knows O'Clock. With that thought in mind, the chapter then bids farewell to the flashback, and the present day once again fills our story. Officer Sansa and Tanuma have been combing through the paperwork, and Sansa volunteers to grab some more coffee before they tackle this some more. Tanuma then begins to think out loud, and he's trying to, just piece together the information and see how this Pop Step and Naruhata villain incident, how it's relating to the Underground Masquerade. I mean, the Underground Masquerade was the case that busted everything open. It leads to the secret showdown between All Might and All For One. Also, and the fact that Tanuma knows about that fight, it pretty much lets me know that he has to know about the injury as well. And thinking back to that spin-off chapter, the one that was happening in the beginning of the story when Tsukauchi finds out about All Might, the person that told him to go to Might Tower and ask for Toshinori Yagi was Tanuma. So Tsukauchi, Tanuma, they had to have known from the beginning. I mean, saying this, he might not have been present for the actual incident, but he knows about it occurring. That's a lot of information that we didn't know Tanuma knew. And it lets us know that Tanuma is one hell of a detective. He's able to put together everything, but unfortunately by solving the case now, he kinda solved the case a little too early, and he kinda pulled a Ted cord and knew a little too much, if you catch my drift. Because a character from off-screen is ushered in, and we don't know exactly who it is, but we kinda know who it is from the clean cut and dead eyes. He says that, the paperwork that Tanuma filled out was wrong, so he's gonna need to take a look at exactly what Tanuma took out so, he can get the right signatures. Tanuma is like, oh, alright dude, here you go, here's the stuff. And he goes, this is actually what I'm doing right now, is trying to link the Underground Masquerade to the bombings and, all the stuff happening in Naruhata. But that is when shit goes way south, because the officer blows up the documents and reveals himself to be none other than the main antagonist for My Hero Academia Vigilantes, number 6. He's back. He looks at the bewildered Tanuma and he screams and he tries to get everything together, but before Tanuma can really do anything, he panics and number 6 blows up the building, killing Detective Tanuma. That's right, Tanuma's dead. He's covered in his blood. This man just straight up suicide bombed the police department. And the chapter ends with a bloody as fuck number 6 walking through the streets as a vestige of O'Clock appears inside of his mind, encouraging his murderous acts. But yeah, that's the chapter, and I can tell you right now, after, the previous chapter and how it kind of left us kind of like meh, this one totally made up for it. The references to chapter 297 of the main story, I mean, come on, how could you not love this story? But before I go on my whole Tsukauchi rant, let's talk a little bit more about that end scene. So, like I said before, I knew that they were going to go full on Arnold Palmer with this chapter. But I would think if there was one thing that we can take away from this chapter, it's that this whole vestige thing inside of number 6's mind, I don't think it's really O'Clock inside of his head. I just have a feeling that this could be maybe more than just a twisted vestige of O'Clock. I think it could possibly be that All For One is inside of number 6's head, actually manipulating him. I mean, in My Hero Academia, All For One pretty much had no problem jumping in and stealing Shigaraki's body, so, how do we know that he's not manipulating from behind the scenes right here? But also, the parallels that are drawn between Shigaraki and Hood are definitely there between Shigaraki and number 6. Number 6 is clearly a pawn for All For One. It's evident. And number 6 right now is just on a crash course with failure. And I feel like, honestly, maybe the story might benefit from a little bit more backstory of number 6 before he gets taken out. Either way, I feel like there's something pivotal that I'm missing, and it's definitely just sitting in my face. But now I want to talk about Tsukauchi. Back in my video when I was actually talking about him, I said that this case had become pretty personal for him. You know, number 6 tried to kill his sister multiple times. The one guy that drew the conclusion that All For One was getting ready to move is dead, and before he could think he was dead. It's ridiculous, man. And the irony could be that Tsukauchi is telling the vigilantes that they'll be locked up on the spot if they decide to move outside the law. But right now, if I'm getting any vibe from anything, I'm getting Killing Joke vibes. Like, this is definitely Tsukauchi's one bad day. And to be quite honest, we've kind of been introduced to Tsukauchi as somebody who's not going to go out and quirk sling. But if he gets driven to that point where maybe, like, you know, number 6 corners him in a way that he's got to use his quirk and he just whips it out and for all we know it's something ridiculous, it would be insane. But the death of Tanuma does more than just, you know, causes Tsukauchi to become unhinged. It gives us the reason for Knuckle Duster's return. And also at the same time, Tsukauchi is going to stop staking out the hospital, which means that, you know, number 6 can have the opportunity to get inside. The current state of Vigilantes and My Hero Academia is so hectic, and this was one of those weeks where I just got to give daps to the translators for doing such a great job. And to address something in my comments, I know a lot of people weren't really fond of this flashback arc because, to be quite honest, I at first kind of questioned its relevance, but in the end, I guess it kind of helped us as the reader to understand the type of hero that O'Clock was. And on top of that, we learned how bad All For One wants the quirk Overclock. I mean, his lust for it pretty much opened up the pathway for the first fight between him and All Might. Though, that's gonna do it for today. Thanks for coming by the bar, and if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to hit that like button. My question for you guys though is, what do you think All For One's future plans in the flashback were for Overclock? Be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And before I sign off today, today's video is dedicated to the memory of one of our very own here at the bar, Foul Weather. He passed away peacefully in his sleep a few weeks ago, and I just want to reach out to every single one of you all and let you know that I care about you. So please, take care of yourselves and just put those petty arguments aside and just tell the person that you care about that you love them. And with that being said, glasses up. This one's for you, Foul. Keep watching over us. Cheers.